argument, but at the end of the day, he may say the geeks are all powerful now and they're coming into their own because of technology and knowledge and everything else, but he's still doing a lonely boy revenge fantasy.
I really hope so, because if not, we absolutely have to fight back for civilization and the written word and all those things that I believe in. I'm not against comic books as such. Look, Paul Auster's City of Glass in the Neon Lit series is fantastic, and you get in there and you're with the characters, you have the relationship experience. This, it's misogynist, it's homophobic, everybody's a fag or a cocksucker. You know, there's absolutely no place for women except as cardboard cutouts. And the thing is just full of the worst kind of dripping violence, which is a kind of adrenaline injection, which means that you are going to be utterly dead to life in its subtlety, in its complexity, in its possibility of expansion and relationship. This is the kind of thing that is the product of human emptiness.
Human emptiness, and do you actually think the violence is justified?
I just thought it was a comic book. It just read quick and it was fun. I put it down and it didn't change me and it didn't make me
And you didn't, the violence didn't upset you?
I mean, I live in that world, the comic book world and the world of graphic arts. So, like, opening it up, you know, and I'm very familiar with Mark Millar's stuff as well. Previously, opening it up, what I was surprised and delighted by, and you're going to lose it on this one, I can tell. I love the kick-ass little girl, Hit Girl, who just all
I love
of a sudden appears on the scene.
Polly Pocket.
Oh my God! Yes, between Rambo and Polly Pocket.
Well, because it's now because she's a female who's got no female characteristics at all. They've all got 10.
She absolutely does.
Listen, if she hasn't got them by 10, baby, she's not going to get them by 20.
She's been indoctrinated by her father, of course.
Yeah, she has, but I think misogynist is a bit, well, unfair and also inaccurate. I think it's the comic book world.
The comic book world is misogynist. It wipes women out.
But I don't think that's true anymore. I don't think that's true at all.
It's completely true in Kick-Ass.
I don't think that's even slightly the case.
Well, the girl lives
the
all the way to
10-year-old
the
girl.
end,
Yeah, exactly.
She lives. She's the victor.
It's true. She's not dead. It's great to be a female who's not dead. That's a step
and
forward
a hero, and somebody who can fight people
somewhere.
And somebody who can fight back. She is not just alive. She's tough. She's a fighter. She's the better fighter out of the two of them.
And also,
the girl
is
the strong one. The boy is the weak one.
Too. Like for years and years, people have had stories in comic books where a boy's parents are killed and then he becomes an Avenger, and this is the story of a girl whose mother is killed through different through criminal means, and then she becomes an Avenger.
That doesn't mean she chops everybody's heads off.
But why not? Why not? Why not equal fair time? Because boys have been doing it for years. Why not let girls do it for a while?
You just said to me, why not?
Aren't you just making
it's a comic book, though? It's not real life. I mean, you're just
isn't the danger here that what you're saying is that actually having girls behave like boys makes it okay?
Absolutely. Look, I have a 10-year-old girl. I'm taking her to see the Kick-Ass movie. I saw an early cut of it. It's R. It's hard R. I'm going to take her to see it. I'm going to cover her ears for all the language. And in the violence, I'm going to be like, look.
But why cover her ears when what she sees is going to be so much more graphic than anything that she hears? You know, you want to cover her eyes.
She's sensitive to harsh language because that's what her father does for a living. Right. So she doesn't like to hear it in other movies.
I think that's crazy. You can't put a kid in front of that and say it won't affect her.
That one it might, though. Especially her mother is a hardcore feminist. I don't know why she married me. I'm barely a man.
They're the worst. They're scary.
Yeah. But she watched Kick-Ass with me and was hooting, hollering, out of her seat in ways that, like, I've made movies that she's watching and react like.
But Natalie, on a broader level, do you think women's relationship to the geek world has changed? I mean, do you think? I mean, it absolutely was. Growing up, Geeks, it was all about boys in bedrooms, not getting laid and fantasizing about getting laid. It wasn't about girls.
It's true.
And has that changed?
I think it has, because the girls always used to be a sort of really creepy stereotype. They always used to have small hips and then tiny waists and then big stick-on tits. And now, weirdly, of course, the way that society has advanced is that that's what ordinary women now aspire to look like, because that is the kind of posh spice prototype. Tiny hips, tiny waist, stick-on tits. And then in the geek world, those girls don't look like that anymore. She's 10. She's got two swords. She's kind of kick-ass. That's sort of what she is. She's way more kick-ass than the boy. And given that the genre of comic books is that there will be violence in this type of comic book,
you cannot swap a stereotype of sexual passivity for a stereotype of violence and call that progress.
It's a slight progress. At least she's active.
That is not progress.
But it's a start. You got to start somewhere.
I don't have your problem with the genre in general. I think there are lots of. We started out with the Iliad, and I guess I'm bringing it back in. It's full of violence. It's full of people having their heads cleaved open and brains spilling everywhere, and girls don't get to do much there either.
Just as well, you two don't have any weapons on you. Just to sort this out. Let's have the wider point that Mark Millar is making about geeks coming into their own in this age of information. In this age that it's not about what you do with your hands to craft ships. It's about what you know, the knowledge you actually gain and retain and enjoy Is that why the geeks are inheriting the earth now? It's a different kind of world we live in.
No, I just think, I think basically you have a bunch of people who grew up as quote-unquote geeks, as the boys you mentioned, who weren't getting laid at home, to get positions of power where they're like approving media saying, okay, I'd like to see this movie, okay, I'd like to see this movie. You're having executives who have loved comic books suddenly being like, this is the most creatively fertile ground that exists out there, cinematically speaking. Why aren't we putting this up on a screen every week? And that's what they're doing now.
I don't think it is creatively fertile. I think it's really easy to play to the lowest common denominator. You know, if you're into science and tech, there's such a thing called gravity, there's such a thing called entropy. It's very easy to play everything down and then say, hey, this is the brave new world. It's not.
But
it's
in an information
but you can take it
age,
by that as well, to say like writing science fiction is easy because all you do is take a real world situation and put it through a filter of like it's in space and they got weird names with axis at the end of it or something like that. It's still, you're usually kind of satirizing the real world or taking a snapshot of the world and putting it through the prism of sci-fi. Same thing with
I don't have a problem
Natalie,
with that.
on this broader question of whether the geek is more prized now, in all the movies, in things like CSI, is the person with the knowledge, it's not the brawny policeman that solves it, it's the person with the detailed knowledge.
Yes,
be that a man or a woman.
Changed. Yeah, no, absolutely, because in the old days, you used to be, when we were growing up, a computer was something that no one really had because I am so very old.
Or as big as this room.
Yeah, or it's as big as the room. And then, you know, everyone, you know, got a computer eventually to play Manic Miner. And then there was one kid in the corner who could program some X's or something really rubbish on a BBC Micro or whatever it was. And then, of course, they've now become part of everyone's lives. And so the guy in the corner who used to sort of stomp in and go, press Control X, delete, and stomp out. We're all that guy now. We might not necessarily have chosen to be, but there is no way to, you can't be a writer if you don't have the ability to email people and mail them back. You can't do anything creative anymore. David Hockney, for heaven's sake, draws a picture every day on his iPhone and sends it to his friends. We have become those people. We're all the geeks.
And Obama, is he feeding into this whole geek thing, you know?
I think so as well. And I mean, look, the dude made an appearance in Marvel Comics, and as a comic book retailer as well, that issue shot sky high, became an instant wall book, $30 book, so I like the president. He made me a little extra scratch on a book that cost me $2.
I just don't think we have to morph with the technology. I think we can still be human beings.
Well, Kick-Ass is published serially by Marvel, and the collected version, naturally, will be published by Titan in the new year. Sci-fi may be on primetime TV and in the multiplexes, but enter any mainstream bookshop and the fantasy section will be tucked away well around the corner. And as for awards for literature, this week it was all about the past, not the future. The Nobel Prize for Literature went to a writer who explored life under Ceausescu, and the Man Booker Prize to Hilary Mantel's historical fiction. Sci-fi is in another realm altogether, and it was the subject of this year's Booker Row. Science fiction was nowhere near the Booker list, to the anger of sci-fi author Kim Stanley Robinson, who insisted that Yellow Blue Tibia should have won the whole thing. Is sci-fi literature really, as Booker judge John Mullen claimed, a self-enclosed world with work bought by a special kind of person who has special weird things they